Hello, and welcome to a podcast interview on behalf of the Biathlon Integrity Unit. My name's Callum Murray, and my guest is Greg McKenna, head of the Biathlon Integrity Unit. We are calling this interview the BIU. It's not just about testing. So I began by asking Greg to describe the BIU's mandate.
Hi, Callum. Yeah, sure. I mean, in simple terms, the BIU's mandate is to support the biathlon family in protecting the integrity of the sport, and alongside that is to ensure the well-being, so the safety of participants, so anybody involved in the sport of biathlon.
So what's the relationship between the BIU and the International Biathlon Union in this area?
I think it's worthy just to mention a bit of history here. So back in 2019, following allegations of corruption by individuals that were senior within International Biathlon, the biathlon family made a big decision, and that was to establish its own integrity unit. So this was a unit to be established which would be independent from the International Biathlon Union. And often in sport, we speak about integrity, and often that integrity relates to things just like anti-doping and match fixing. But actually, of course, integrity in sport means a lot more. It's about looking after each other. It's about ensuring that people's welfare is maintained. And more recently, the BIU have carried out a lot of work in relation to areas of welfare and safeguarding. So I'd like to say that, you know, within biathlon, we have a new unit. It's called the BIU. It has its own governance and oversight board, comprising of individuals with no connection to biathlon. We have our own budget, so that means that we're able to deal with our own financial situation, and that allows us also to make our own decisions, which are independent and outside of the influence of the International Federation. So in answer to your question, the BIU is completely operationally independent from the International Biathlon Union. It's answerable directly to the board, the BIU board, who in turn are answerable directly to the Congress, so the individuals that represent the biathlon family. And this structure allows the BIU to investigate any allegations independently of any other interference, which I think is tremendously important for a unit such as ours.
So obviously, if things are working as you hope they should, you're receiving some pretty sensitive information from the biathlon community. How does the BIU handle that?
Well, firstly, I think it's I should point out that any information that's provided to the BIU is extremely important, and it's treated with the utmost respect and the utmost care. So the BIU works on a principle that any information that is provided to us within the BIU is treated in absolute confidence. So this means that unless on the rare occasion there's a legal obligation or agreement from the individual that's provided us with the information, unless those two areas are covered, then the information is not shared with anybody outside of the Biathlon Integrity Unit. We're a small team. We comprise of highly skilled individuals who understand how to handle information and data. And of course, we're driven by this desire to ensure that, you know, people within the sport are free from abuse and that the sport is safe for everybody. So in order for us to achieve that, we need to be able to build trust. And trust can only be achieved if we ensure that information that's provided to us is handled in the right way.
You rely heavily on whistleblowers to help maintain the integrity of the sport. How does the whistleblowing process work, and why is it so important?
Well, I can't overemphasize the importance of the whistleblowers and people that provide information to us within biathlon. So this means that everybody within biathlon has their part to play. For those involved in the sport, so the athletes, coaches, medical staff, national federations, the organising committees, those are the people that are out there. Those are the people that can hear and see things that are going on. And especially when they see things that may not seem quite right, or see things that they consider to be maybe harmful to others, it's important that those individuals come forward and provide that information to us. And on the Biathlon Integrity Unit website, in many places on the website, there's a button which is labeled Submit Your Report or Submit a Report. And that takes you to the reporting line. And I think it's important for me to point out that that reporting line, that portal, is highly secure, and it allows the individual people to provide us with information in a secure environment. There's no requirement for the individuals to provide their name or contact details. And if you decide that is the case, then there's no way that we can then research the input to try and find your IP address or other mechanism to find out who's provided the report. So it can be done in absolute privacy. I would encourage people, of course, to leave their contact details or some way of making contact with them, because sometimes it allows us then to progress the report in a more effective manner. But ultimately, it isn't something which is required by them. So what I'd also like to say is that quite often people feel that they don't want to provide information because maybe they think that they don't want to bother the BIU, or maybe it's insignificant. But actually, it's these small pieces of information which can make a big difference and can assist us in protecting people out there in the sport.
And on the same theme, I know whistleblowers play a special role in the field of safeguarding. Why is this?
Well, again, in relation to whistleblowing and providing information, I mean, certainly in relation to safeguarding matters, so looking after the welfare of people across the sport, predominantly in all sectors, whether it be sport or otherwise, those types of issues are generally identified by what people see and what people hear. And it's important that we understand that everybody within the sport of biathlon has the right to be treated with dignity and respect, of course, at all times. And in circumstances where people aren't being treated in this way, whistleblowing ensures that that behaviour can be identified, and it gives the Biathlon Integrity Unit the opportunity to investigate it further and ensure that the welfare and well-being of individuals can be supported. Again, I can't overemphasize the fact that when information is provided to us, it is provided to us in absolute confidence. The identities of people providing information will not be disclosed unless that is agreed with the individual providing information. So again, certainly from a safeguarding perspective, it's vitally important whistleblowing information.
You may have partly answered this question, but how does the BIU protect whistleblowers and keep them informed?
Yeah, so again, people that provide information in relation to any element of integrity, and certainly in relation to whistleblowing information, it's treated in absolute confidence. So the information is provided, it could be through the whistleblowing portal, it could be to a member of the BIU during a competition, or it could be a telephone call into the unit. We will support the individual. We will fully inform the individual of their rights, of our obligations to ensure that their identities are kept in absolute confidence. Because of course, it takes a great deal of courage for people to come forward and report wrongdoing within the sport. We will, in the next few weeks, publish a revised whistleblowing policy, which is going to be now named a confidential source policy. And that will explain in simple terms what the process looks like. But actually, as far as whistleblowing is concerned, there's legislation and also confidentiality in relation to the information that provide. And also within our rules, within biathlon, the rules again support and encourage people to come forward and provide information. So as long as the individual isn't providing information which would be considered to be malicious, so for example, an individual provides information which is completely false in order to cause problems for somebody else, as long as that isn't the case, then your information will be kept in absolute confidence and not are not disclosed. It's imperative that we encourage people to come forward and report to us.
I think there's a possible misconception that now that biathlon has the BIU, maintaining integrity in biathlon is solely the job of the BIU. But that's not the case, is it?
No, it isn't. I mean, within the team, we do have some very, well experienced and highly skilled individuals that can take information and analyze it and do a lot with it in order to protect the sport. We do things like we ensure that the rules are reviewed and that they're fit for purpose, that we have an excellent educational program, etc. But of course, the reality is that in order for us to be effective, we need the community to be on their guard, to be identifying areas which is cause for concern, and when they see that, when they do that, to take some sort of action. It can be as easy as just picking up the phone just to say, look, Greg, I've been at a competition or I've seen this. I'm not too sure whether it's an issue or not, but it's just something that I thought I should report. And again, sometimes I think there's a misconception that when information is provided to us, that we will immediately take some fairly heavy-handed action against the individual for which the report is directed. And to assure people that is not the case. Often we get information, small pieces of information, and we will start to try and build that information together to create a picture of actually what is happening. And once we have a good understanding of what is happening, only then would we consider taking action. And again, the action that we take in those circumstances would be proportionate. It would be carefully considered. And throughout, we'll always be thinking about the individuals that provide information to ensure that their identities are protected. So in essence, we use this phrase, it's a team game. Without doubt, in order to protect the integrity of the sport, it's a team game. People out there keeping their eyes open, keeping their ears alive to what's happening, providing that information to us and allowing us to at least assess it and to protect the sport in the best possible way.
So are there other ways athletes and others in the biathlon community can support the work of the BIU?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the easiest ways is to follow us on social media to be informed about issues within the sport. Because if people within the community are fully informed of the issues, then they'll be able to identify, when these issues are taking place, and then hopefully feed that information back to us. The social media channels that we operate on, predominantly Instagram and Twitter, are absolutely there to provide relevant information to the community. They're not there to promote the BIU. They're purely there to provide educational information to the community. And also, I would ask for people maybe to share some of the excellent communications pieces that are put out there to the community. Because again, the further we can get the word around what issues exist, the more chance we have as a community of protecting each other.
We're calling this interview the BIU. It's not just about testing. And that's partly because investigation also plays an important role. How does this work?
So, absolutely. I mean, currently, anti-doping, of course, is a major threat to sport, and it's a major threat to biathlon. Some of the recent figures from WADA identify that as a sporting community, we're spending a lot of money on collecting samples, analysing those samples. The figures of sample collection have risen over recent years, yet the actual detection of prohibited substances has reduced. So I think the latest figures are somewhere between 0.5% of all samples collected. We find a prohibited substance. Currently, we have within biathlon, we have a very good testing program. However, the figures reflect the international trend. So we need to think about, well, actually, how do we improve that? How can we be truly more targeted in relation to the times, the locations when we collect samples for further analysis? So the method that we're using for this is to start to, again, ask for assistance from the community. So we talk about whistleblowing, we talk about opportunities for the community to provide us with information. Also, we're spending a lot of time now in relation to analysis. So analysis of performance data, analysis of trends in other sports, and really start to bring that information together to develop a picture. Alongside that, investigators out there speaking with community members, identifying where risks may lie, and again, hopefully start to build this picture so that when the doping control officers are attending certain locations to collect samples, that actually, we can start to gather more information from the samples that are collected and slowly start to develop a more complete picture of the issues and issues that potentially exist within sport. And I must say as well, Callum, with this, that the majority of athletes in our sport, without doubt, are clean. But for the small minority of individuals that may be intent on cheating, those individuals understand how the current system works. And those are the individuals that will work around it. And it's for us to work together to mitigate the risks that those individuals pose.
And finally, what does the BIU do with all the information it collects during these investigations?
Well, information collected, as mentioned, is treated in absolute confidence, and in order for us to do that, we need to ensure it's stored in a correct way. So we use a highly secure case management system. It's a system which is completely independent, so it's used only by the Biathlon Integrity Unit, but it's a system which is licensed for use in other sectors, like, for example, law enforcement. So again, just to give people confidence that as far as security is concerned, it is an excellent system. The information is only secured, information that we consider to be necessary, and it's also stored in a proportionate way. So only information which we consider is required to achieve what we're seeking to achieve, which is, of course, safety of the biathlon community. And all data is reviewed on a regular basis. So we're completely alive to requirements in relation to data storage and retention, and that's something which is reviewed on a regular basis.
Greg, that's great, really interesting. Thank you for explaining to us why the BIU is not just about testing.
Thank you, Colin.